It was 2004, it was summer, it was August. It's almost 16 years to the week that former Prime Minister Rafik Hariri and myself walked on this very same cobblestones, and we talked about how he'd put his heart and soul into reconstructing Beirut and helping Lebanon to recover after the civil war. He brought with him his grandson, Hussam, one of 8, I think it was, grandchildren at the time. He was very concerned that the other grandchildren would be very jealous about the little boy being carried on the Prime Minister's shoulder while he was meeting all the crowds around here. So, and Hariri had a bad back. So he was lifting Hussam, he had a bad back, but he was very happy to be here, proud of his project.
On Saturday nights, you cannot find one empty table here. Hariri's heart and soul are in the downtown, and he admits that.
Said his body, his soul and
his heart
and
his soul.
Now his body is in Beirut.
Not far from here. And we talked a lot about the Civil War years, how those years, he believed, were never coming back again. And it was also interesting to hear him talking in those days about Israeli threats against Lebanon, about Israeli overflights on sovereign territory of Lebanon. Some of the same ingredients of war that we're hearing again today in 2020. So these are very strong echoes of the past that are coming back to haunt me, particularly walking along this street, this day, coming back to haunt me right now.
August 7, which is like next week, everyone is waiting for the final verdict. So what do you expect on this day?
Look, it's taken almost $500 million for the tribunal to reach its expected verdicts on August the 7th. We don't know which way the court is going to rule on the case, but let's look at it both ways, innocent and guilty. If we assume that the members of Hezbollah, of which 3 have been tried in absentia, the fourth, Mustafa Bedruddin, died in Syria, I think that we have to look at 2 levels, the international level and the local level. On the local level, it will be absorbed in much the same way as it's been absorbed for the past 15 years since the assassination. It's 2009 since the tribunal began its work. But what will happen internationally? Will Hezbollah be criticized even more than it already is by the United States, by France, by the Europeans? What will be the international reaction? Will there be a loud voice? What will the consequences be on Hezbollah's allies, political allies in Lebanon? That includes the president. That includes his son-in-law, Gibran Bassil. Could there be any consequences at the international level on them because of their alliance with Hezbollah if the Hezbollah members are convicted? Was it worth all this effort, all this time, all this division that the tribunal caused? Well, I think many people will tell you on principle, yes. But will it make any fundamental difference to the status quo today internally? Not very likely, but it is a moral result that people expect and people want. In that sense, it's a road marker. In terms of the cost, in terms of the time it's taken, and in terms of everything else, I think you have to look in the context of what's happening regionally and internationally right at this time. Very different days from when Rafik Hariri was here, and I'm sure if he could see all that was going on, he'd turn over in his grave.
One last question. I don't know if you remember what once Rafik Hariri said, and now it's a quote in Lebanon. Nobody's bigger than his country. He said it once. Would he say it today?
I think he would say the same thing. He was convinced that Lebanon would not return to civil war. But it's also important, as far as the tribunal is concerned, to go back to the end of our walk through town. In the car on the way back to Raitem, where he was then based, he told me that in 2004, the extension of the then president, Emil Lahoud, if he signed it, he'd be cut to pieces. He said he wasn't going to sign it, and he said he might be cut to pieces in the car privately to me. He would have to pay a price if he didn't sign it. He did sign it, and he died 6 months after we walked along here. So in conclusion, I would ask, are we going to get the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth from the Special Tribunal in Lebanon?
You know why everything has been built? You know why? For your generation, Jiddu. For you, for your sisters, for other grandchildren, for all the good boys and girls in the world. For the whole Lebanese.
وهؤلاء ينتظرون 7 آب لمعرفة الحكم النهائي.